Hey, welcome into Throwback Thursday here on Main Street. On Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. Wade Neely will be joining us shortly, and there he is. Wade, what's happening?
What's up,
Happy
Mo? Good to be
Thursday.
with you. Good to see everybody.
Yeah, good to see you. Struggling a little here early, but we are going to have a great show here over the next couple of hours as we talk local, regional, and national sports topics. In the second hour, we will be joined by Kevin Ingram of the Vanderbilt Radio Network, talking a little bit about their top 25 matchup between the 17th ranked Commodores and number 10 LSU over at First Bank Stadium on Saturday. In the next segment, we will be joined on Coach's Corner by offensive coordinator Scott SEMPTIMPHELTER of Grace Christian. The Lions off to a 7-0 start in their first season of competition at the Division II AA level. Semp gonna give us some insight on how they've gotten there and what to look for as they get ready to host Good Pasture in a big region matchup tomorrow night. So looking forward to talking to both of our guests. We'll also be talking a little women's basketball at the collegiate level, little Major League Baseball talk, some football, both collegiate and professional, and whatnot, basically. So
A smorgasbord.
I like it. A smorgasbord. It's like a fancy buffet. Yeah. Plenty to get into. Again, it's as Wade likes to say, I don't know when the sports equinox is necessarily, but it's certainly approaching. I think we're still a little bit off because the NBA regular season hasn't started up. But man, there's a lot going on right now.
Ton to get into. You're right. We will celebrate that on Monday, October 27th. But until then, we basically, we haven't reached. Just like when the weatherman tells you, you look up and you're like, hey, it's a full moon. And they're like, well, no, not really. Technically, tomorrow is the full moon. We're basically in the sports equinox right now. We got everything you could want. We got a couple huge matchups on the slate tonight, both MLB and NFL and college football. We're in that stretch, Mo, where it's like 44 days in a row with a college or pro game on our slate. It is prime pickings, to say the least.
Is that not crazy? That's what, more than 6 straight weeks of daily football of some sort or another.
Valhalla, in a sense, for sports fans, because we are right in the thick of it. I'm on record as saying I'm born in November, but October is clearly the best month of the entire year. And I'm looking forward to tapping into a little of that and a little more over the next couple hours with everybody.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and get it cranked up, Wade. Let's give the people yesterday's result and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the Rundown.
To the rundown we go, boys and girls, and I'll give you a result from last night. And look away if you're a Seattle Mariners fan, because the Mariners were pounded last night, folks. Toronto bouncing back in a big way with a 13-4 victory in game number 3 of the American League Championship Series. That was your lone result last night, which means we can go ahead and tap into your Thursday night schedule. And we start with volleyball, where we have a slate all beginning at 7 p.m. All these at 7 o'clock tonight, folks. And we begin with Kirkwood at Arlington. Bradley Central's on the road tonight at Blackman. Green Hill traveling to Brentwood. It'll be Houston at Clarksville. Seagulls on the road at Cleveland. Hume Fogg traveling to Creekwood. It'll be East Robertson at Eagleville. Summit will visit Gallatin tonight. Loretto will take a trip to Merrill Hyde. Murfreesboro Central Magnet will visit Signal Mountain. Harpeth will be at Summertown tonight, coming down to North Lawrence County. And Lexington will be on the road this evening at 7 p.m. at Valor Collegiate.
Yeah, and we will have coverage of a handful of those, including that Harpeth Summertown matchup, because I will be heading to North Lawrence County for that one as well. So be sure and check out mainstreetpreps.com for your updates on these volleyball sectional matchups tonight. Girls soccer action tonight, 6 o'clock first touch when Harpeth goes cross county to Cheatham County, taking on the Lady Cubs. Sycamore is at Fairview at 6. Also, Gallatin is at Hendersonville. That is a 7 o'clock start. Another 6 o'clock game that is not listed, but Summit hosts Franklin at 6 o'clock in the District 10 AAA finals of girls soccer as well. Major League Baseball this evening. 5:08 first pitch. You can see it on TBS. Milwaukee Brewers try to get on the board in the NLCS at the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Dodgers leading this series 2-0 in the NLCS. At 7:33 on FS1, Toronto trying to even the ALCS out in the Pacific Northwest against the Seattle Mariners. 6 o'clock puck drop in Montreal as the Nashville Predators take on the Canadians. You can see that one on FanDuel Sports. And at 7:15 on Amazon Prime, it's AFC North Division matchup as Pittsburgh travels to Cincinnati. We'll be talking more about those latter two contests. Well, we'll be talking more about all of those contests later in the show, so stick around. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes your rundown. Your top story, as always, brought to you by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. You know, we had Blake Lovell from Southeastern16.com on yesterday talking a little Southeastern Conference basketball coming out of their media days from the last couple of days. Well, the women's media days were Tuesday and Wednesday as well. And it might stun you a little, but in a panel of SEC and national women's basketball media, the South Carolina Gamecocks were the favorite to win the SEC 2025-26 championship. I know it's really off the wall, but yeah, your Gamecocks are your favorite in the 16-team conference to win that league this year.
Yeah, media really going off the grid and off the grain in a sense, picking the Gamecocks to win this one this year.
Who'd have thought, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. South Carolina, Texas, LSU, and Tennessee are your top 4 picks as judged by the media that covers this league with some regularity. Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Vanderbilt picked 7th, followed by Kentucky, Alabama, Mississippi State. Your bottom 6 are Florida, Georgia, Missouri, Texas A&M, Auburn, and Arkansas. So again, South Carolina, Texas, LSU, and Tennessee, your top 4. And as Wade said, I don't think there were many limbs gone out on with that. The AP preseason top 25 is out as well. You got 8 SEC teams listed in the preseason top 25. South Carolina at 2, Texas at 4, LSU and Oklahoma 5 and 6, Tennessee at number 8, Ole Miss at 12, just ahead of Michigan. You've got Vanderbilt at 19, just behind USC. USC without Watkins. And let's see, Kentucky and Richmond are tied for 24th. So
well
again,
represented and not
SEC
surprised.
pretty well
Obviously, the South Carolina is at the top. Not up to speed just yet on all of my women's basketball fodder, Mo. But I can tell you that whether South Carolina's got the goods or not, it's a classic example of, hey, we're going to pick them until somebody knocks them off, right? And I mean, Texas is right there on the cusp, but until we see it, it's hard to go against South Carolina and what that program is and what that program has become. So not shocking, but also it's going to be a fun league, a fun season, always is.
I think it's a pretty safe pick, like you said. I mean, until somebody beats them in that championship game, it's a pretty solid pick. But, you do have Texas lurking as well, and they are a top 5 team nationally. So we've talked about it before, but when you announced Texas and Oklahoma were coming to this league, obviously that was a football motivated move, but both of those schools brought really strong, really solid athletic programs overall, and they have impacted this league in a short period of time, and women's basketball has been no exception. I mean, both Texas and Oklahoma obviously were teams that the rest of the former members of the SEC had to deal with on a consistent basis last year. So what was already a great women's basketball conference got a lot deeper with the addition of those two, and both in the top AP top 25 to open this season as well. No great shocks again there. Also, you had preseason all SEC selections. Texas Madison Booker, preseason player of the year. Michaela Blake's also getting votes, as did Flaw J. Johnson from LSU. Your first team members were Booker, Blake's, Johnson, Oklahoma's Reagan Beers, and South Carolina's Joyce Edwards. And it's nice to see somebody individually get recognized from South Carolina, because they are such a big team, little me approach over there. Nobody necessarily stands out. It just kind of feels like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts in a lot of instances. So for Edwards to get that recognition from league media, it's pretty cool out here to start things off.
Absolutely. And, no Asia Wilson, no Aaliyah Boston type characters here. You're right. It is kind of a team effort in the last 2 or 3 seasons for South Carolina. And with that being said, the fact that they do have some individual pop on this list, that kind of would make you a little concerned, because if nobody was on this list, you still would be afraid of South Carolina. But the fact that you've got a couple folks in Edwards and lots of represented here, it kind of makes you say, they do have some playmakers to go addition with the coaching, with the facilities, with everything that kind of comes with that program. So SEC kind of on high alert, but Texas, obviously, fueled by Booker, they're going to be fascinating to watch this year. And we saw them take their shot, take their swing, at South Carolina a good stretch of last year. And again, I think it's going to be a fun, competitive league. I will not be shocked if a team other than South Carolina wins it, just because I think the league is so deep. It is getting tough to win on a massive basis. But if there is one team that could ever do it, it is kind of the Death Star over there in Columbia.
Yeah, no doubt. And, the Gamecocks got a little bit of bad news earlier this week. Chloe Kitts, who was a key performer for them during their stretch run last year, has been diagnosed with a torn ACL in her right knee, expected to have surgery this week, and will miss the 25-26 season. So even with that, the Gamecocks still picked to win this thing. So Kitts, a senior starting forward, again, 2-year starter for South Carolina, going to miss this time around. Average 10.7.5 boards last year, SEC tournament MVP. Region NCAA tournament MVP. So, feels like a big loss, but I mean, it's South Carolina. They tend to reload rather than rebuild, obviously. So, they'll have a challenge there, and it'll be interesting to see how they respond to that.
Be interesting to see how they respond, Mo. And, not an official quote-unquote Ken Palm, but I am looking at the tempo and adjusted kind of rankings. And similar script to what we talked about with Blake yesterday. 8 teams in the SEC are inside the top 25, and that's with, that's not just coaches. That's just not media members. That's kind of the nerds and the computer folks backing that up too. And everything kind of falls in order. Obviously, it'll be fascinating to see what Vanderbilt kind of can do. They were so fun to cover and so fun to kind of keep eyes on last year. A lot of turnover and, not necessarily bringing back the exact same squad that they had a year ago. So if they can kind of maintain some of that mojo that they had, they check in at number 24 in these advanced metrics. I'll be curious to see if that number doesn't climb as the year goes along.
Yeah, I mean, the way they came on last year and obviously had a couple of personnel losses here over the offseason, but certainly have interjected themselves onto the national radar heading into this season. And with Michaela Blake's in the summer that she had, no reason to necessarily expect them to step back. So going to be fun to watch. Should be a fun year at Memorial Gym, both on the men's and the women's side.
You would think, and it's going to be fun to watch, because we've said it before and we'll say it again, and we'll talk with Kevin a little bit later. I mean, when that place is rocking, it is a really, really fun and such a unique environment that it makes for a really, really good time and compelling storylines.
No doubt. Let's take a break here as we continue Throwback Thursday on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, it'll be Coach's Corner. We will be visiting with Grace Christian Academy offensive coordinator Scott SEMPTIMPHELTER, talking a little Lions football. Stick around.
The winning just got closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mint Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
333.
Bee, oh, busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now
busy
ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Throwback Thursday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. It is time now for Coach's Corner, and joining us here is Grace Christian Academy offensive coordinator Scott SEMPTIMPHELTER. The Lions, in their first year of Division II AA competition, seem to be adjusting quite well. 7-0. Heading into a big region matchup tomorrow night against visiting Good Pasture. Semp, thanks for taking some time with us this afternoon.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us, I mean, you guys have really made this thing look kind of easy. You played in Division 2A last year, didn't necessarily go out of that league the way you would have liked to, but that's just a distant memory at this point. 7-0. What's been the key for y'all?
Yeah, so I'll take you back, Mo. I was not coaching last year. I was helping them out occasionally. You know, I'd started a new job outside of the school, and you know, when the playoffs came around, Coach Jordan asked me to help call the plays in the playoffs because they had been, you know, just change it up, whatever. It was kind of a bold move for a head coach. You know, I hadn't been out there much, but we were able to kind of change a couple things and get some momentum. We won a playoff game, first playoff game win in school history. And then we went to Jackson Christian, who was 9-1, I think, at the time. And we competed. It was 14-7 at halftime. And I think whatever we were able to accomplish in those 2 weeks kind of kicked off the offseason. When the news came that we were getting moved up, it was, of course, you know, there was talks. Some of the people around the program were like, gosh, how are we even going to compete, let alone win a game. And when Bob asked me to be full, come on and kind of take over the reins on the offense, I said, okay. I said, let's have a conversation about what that looks like, right? Because I had been out there a little bit and knew a little bit about kind of the focus and things around the program. And not that it was bad, right? It just wasn't Division II AA level where teams are going to play multiple defensive fronts. They're going to play multiple offensive formations. They're going to do a lot of things. They're going to practice all summer. They're going to practice. They're going to have 7-on-7 tournaments. So I kind of introduced to him what that looked like from my time at BGA. And then we had a parents meeting in January. And before I even took the job, I met with the senior parents and I said, all right, you want me to come out here? You've all asked me to do this, right? I have a full-time job. I love you guys. It's great, but here's what's expected. We're going to be there at the 6 a.m. workouts. We're going to play in a, not non-coaches, but the players are going to play together in 7-on-7. We're going to start practice. We're going to have spring ball. We had four people at one spring practice, Mo, but we still had practice. We set the tempo that this is how it's going to be. And everybody bought in, to the parents' credit, to the seniors especially. And it's just been a trickle down effect ever since. And I mean, we've been grinding since whatever that January morning was, where it was 6:30 a.m. We had 34 kids we have on our team. So, to answer your question, it's a long answer, but it's been a commitment from January that we're not going to complain that they moved us up. We're going to go fight. And our kids have outdone themselves every week of the season. We have a guy who started at wide receiver last year, Maurice, is my left tackle. A guy who played running back for a different school who transferred in is playing right tackle. So we are just willing ourselves to win.
We like long answers, first of all, so that's perfectly fine. But second, I don't know what the numbers enrollment-wise look like, but I would imagine you all are one of these smaller D2 AA programs.
Second
and
small.
when you mention 4 kids at a spring workout, I would imagine there's a lot of sharing of athletes that takes place at Grace Christian.
Absolutely.
So
I'm sorry.
No. I was just going to say, so when you talk about everybody buying in, that's a big buy-in.
For sure. We have most of the football team played track, and that's kind of why ran track. That's why a lot of them weren't there. We had 2 or 3 baseball players, and in the spring at Grace Christian, it's track, baseball. Those are the 2 boys sports, right? Or soccer. I'm sorry, boys soccer as well. So we had 2 or 3 boys soccer players. So we were piecemeal in those spring practices together. But I brought on Coach Jordan was very generous and giving me some leeway to bring in some coaches for him to interview. We brought in a guy named Josh Wright, who was actually my agent when I was playing, 28 years ago, whatever it was. He was my agent. So having him, in the building, or not in the building, but on the team and kind of having the same mindset that I had, that, the only thing we're going to accept is the best you have. Right. And it doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't matter how fast you are. We're going to put all the effort we can into being competitive, into winning football games. To answer your question earlier, we're the second smallest school in Division II AA. 4 schools came in below us, and I know at least one of them dropped out of TSSAA football. Zion, they didn't have enough kids. They still play, but they played a playoff schedule. So we were very close to that limit. But hey, look, no excuses now, man. We're here.
None needed. You open the season with back-to-back shutouts. In your first 5 games, you never gave up more than 7 points. I mean, I know you're the offensive coordinator, but it makes it a little bit easier to call plays when your defense is playing the way they were early on as well.
I'll tell you, so just to give you some perspective, when I took the job, so everyone would say, well, how are we going to be? I said, first thing I'll tell you is our skill people are going to be competitive. Like, we have a lot of good athletes, nothing like super spectacular, but we have a lot of good football players. My biggest concern was D-line and O-line. Can we compete at the Division II AA level with the guys we had? Now, the guys are good football players, right? They're just undersized, or one of them was coming back from an ACL injury. So we just had we had 6 quarterbacks and 4 linemen at some of the spring practices. So we had more quarterbacks than linemen, right? So again, that was part of the challenge. on defense, we basically we have 10 linebacker DBs and 1 D lineman. And Coach Wright has done wonders with making it look like a normal defense. And we use our athleticism. We use our skills that we have. And we have a great nucleus of leaders, on that side of the ball. All those kids play offense, right? We're fortunate enough on the offensive skill side that my quarterback and my best receiver, he doesn't play defense, but the rest of the guys rotate. And we play 7 or 8 receivers. If you look at our stats, we have probably 8 kids who've caught passes. We have 3 or 4 that have run the ball. So we've had a ton of different, different groups of players on the field, but defensively, to answer your question, they've been phenomenal.
Scott SEMPTIMPHELTER, Grace.
Coach, I want to just
go ahead, Wade. I'm
Mo
sorry.
kind of mentioned your defense. Sorry, I'm lagging a bit here, so I apologize. But Coach mentioned that when you only give up 7 points a game, if you score 8, you can go out and grab a win. But I'm curious, I know you're always an evaluator, it seems like, and I'm curious, at this point in the season, what are some things maybe you feel like, hey, we could be a little bit better offensively? Where are some areas of focus, at least in your mind?
Yeah, we came out, when I called the plays in the 2 playoff games, we threw the ball probably 80% of the time. And it was by need. We actually had a decent sized line last year, but we were just who we were playing. It just what we had offensively was that. And I'm an ex-quarterback. I work with quarterbacks, so I love to throw the ball. We're going to throw the ball regardless of what the offensive line looks like, just because I believe in it. I believe in having a balance. But to say what could we be better at, we could absolutely be better running the ball. We've done some things in recent weeks that have shown huge improvements. It's a work in progress, but we're multiple. I mean, we're 65-35 maybe, in most games, 70-30 in some, 60-40 in others. But I think we're averaging 31 points a game. So, and again, Davidson Academy did a good job against us, but we ended up, scoring in overtime and winning the game. So it's been a work in progress. I mean, you've got guys learning to play offensive line. I mean, we have our starting right guard that didn't play football since 8th grade. So you've got these kids, our starting left guard didn't play last year, tore his ACL, right? And our center's a sophomore. So, Coach Broadway, he was with me at BGA. He's he was a Dixon County OC years ago. He's one of the brightest football minds I've ever been around. He's my O-line guy. Love him to death. He's a good friend. Got him out of retirement to help. He's a genius when it comes to undersized linemen. He's great around the kids. So, running the ball would be probably the number one thing. In the playoffs, you got to run the ball to win, right? Got to keep the defense, off the field if you can. So that will probably be the number one thing.
Other question I had, you mentioned a combo earlier. Did I hear that correctly? Receivers turned linemen or linemen turned receivers? Kind of shed some more insight on that real quick.
Yeah, so we have last year our starting outside receiver. His name is Ben Hastings and Josiah Fish. They were our starting Y and Z. So you think about your slot and then your outside receiver. They're not small kids. But they're not big. They're 180 pounds, right? They're not huge. And then we had another kid named Gunner. I forget Gunner's last name, but Gunner's I think Stockton. Gunner came in, and he was playing running back at Zion. And Zion he moved from Zion and came over to us when the rules changed, and he wasn't sure if they were going to play TSSAA. So these guys are playing skill positions last year. So they were bodies that you could put on the line and at least be competitive. And they're all physical, strong kids. Ben and Fish play D line for us, so they're athletic and they're strong. And then Gunner he plays D line as well for us. So that we threw him in there, and I'll tell you a funny story. I bribed them. We had a meeting early in the summer. And I said, listen, I get it. You guys are not linemen. I completely respect that. And they're like, Coach, we're not good at it. And I said, trust me, you guys are physical. You're athletic. We can get you there. So I said, here's a deal I'll make with you. You guys put your hand in the dirt to help us when we need you. And again, we didn't want them to be full-time linemen, right? We want them to just be fill-ins or whatever. I said, I'll get you in the end zone. I said, we'll make a 2-point play. We'll have a couple trick plays or whatever. So far this year, Fish, Josiah Fish, and Ben have gotten in the end zone on 2-point plays. So we've gotten them, and I'm a man of my word. But we got to figure out a way to get Gunner. We got some tough competition coming up, so I don't know if we'll be able to pull that off for Gunner.
I love the bribery concept, Coach, but I'm also when you mentioned that earlier, I just wanted to wonder what their tape looks like. That's one heck of a highlight tape that you could potentially pull together. Hey, I'm grabbing a touchdown. Hey, I'm grabbing a third and long, but I'm also putting a guy on his rear end with a pancake. That's kind of a well-rounded tape, I would imagine.
Yes, it was. It was last year was an interesting year for them guys. Offensively, they struggled some. But yeah, I mean, to find plays where they scored a touchdown, like we're playing 7-on-7 at the Riverdale tournament, and Ben has like 6 touchdowns. Because he was still doing both. He was playing receiver, so Ben has like 6 touchdowns. And I'm talking to the coach, so I'm like, he's not going to want to move down there. Like he's not going to. Now he's my starting left tackle, and he's good. Like he's a physical player. And he even said to me before the year, he said, "Coach, they tried to do this with me at Nashville Christian, and they put me at tight end, and I'm just not good at it." And I said, "Ben, I love you. Just trust me. You'll be fine." But yeah, so it's stories like that. And I don't know, you guys may be going to ask about, but the Warren DeGraff story, if you've read anything on him, he's a kid who had leukemia. He's still going through some chemo treatments. He gets checked every Thursday for his blood work to make sure he can play. He plays. He had a port taken out of his chest so he could play football his senior year, his fifth year senior, actually. TSSAA granted him another year because he missed a semester of school because of the cancer treatments. So it's just been an amazing year.
Former Nashville Cats quarterback Scott SEMPTIMPHELTER joining us here on Main Street Sports today on Coach's Corner. Grace Christian, first year offensive coordinator. And Scott, you said that you had taken a new job. Sounds like maybe that was in sales, judging by your technique with some of those skill folks turned linemen. But I tell you, I had a chance to see you guys a few weeks ago down at Columbia Academy, and whatever other moves that y'all have made, Knox Lambert at quarterback is the real deal.
Yeah, Knox. I'll tell you, Knox. There's 2 reasons that I couldn't say no to the opportunity to coach. I love all the kids. Don't take this the wrong way, but Knox was number 1. And I had gotten to know Warren a little bit through the process, and Warren's younger brother Grayson's probably our best receiver. So him as well, that family as well. But Knox and I were talking, and he was struggling last year. He just struggled with the whole year. He struggled with they didn't really have a quarterback coach. That's why I was going out there. I was just trying to help him out. But Knox has been was really one of the reasons. He fought hard. He recruited the halls. He brought me in to meet with kids. Like he did more than any 17-year-old boy or 18-year-old he is, should do. But he's got a talented arm. His freshman and sophomore year, he got hurt. I think he missed both years or played a little bit as a freshman, but hurt his shoulder or something. The kid was injury prone early on in his career. But when you talk about just pure arm talent, he's got a college arm. He doesn't want to play. He wants to go be a student coach at UT, and that's fine. But he could easily play D2, D3 football. He's a smart kid. He works hard at it. He does what I ask him to do. I mean, 68% on the year, 16 or 17 touchdowns. I think he's thrown eight interceptions, which is probably the one complaint I would have. We average about 220 yards a game, and we run a complicated offense. I mean, we can adjust mid game and change a concept and with one little tag, and he's got to be able to figure all that out. He's got to help me with the protection on the field. And he's done a great job at halftime. He'll come in and say, "Hey, coach, I think we can run this and this." And to his credit, he always likes to point out that when he makes a suggestion, it normally works.
Everybody likes being right, huh?
Yes, absolutely.
Again, 7-0, Scott. A lot of firsts this season. You got good pasture coming tomorrow night. What is it that helps y'all take that next step forward in what has already been a fantastic season?
Yeah, I think we just got to continue being us. We haven't played our best game yet, Mel. We have not. We 100% have not. The game you saw, our first half of offense, I was livid at halftime. We were not executing. We were not doing what we needed to do. So we have not played. Our defense has played really well at times. I think they would tell you they haven't played their best game yet either. But I think the key for us is stopping the run. Right, like I talked about earlier, that was the number one concern I had coming from a defensive perspective into the year. Let's stop the run, And then let's protect our quarterback and let's run the ball as much as we can, because every yard we gain rushing, we're going to gain 5 passing, because if they got to worry about the run, then our passing game's even better. And those are the things that, blocking, tackling, all the things we work on. We've created a system of consistency. We've created a system of, this is what we're doing on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. We're doing tackling drills every day. We're doing, individual, whatever it is that position group needs. And we have 34 guys bought in. And when I say 34 guys bought in, I'm telling you, man, the 34th guy on the film can tell you, on the team can tell you what to do on certain plays. The coaches have all bought into that and have been reinvigorated. The school, the game against Davidson, if you would have been on the field, they've never had an atmosphere like that at Grace before. And it's a credit to the parents and it's a credit to the players, right? The administration wants us to be good. The school is a great community of people. I knew it was a good place, but now that I'm inside the walls there, the people are just wonderful people. They'll take the shirt off their back for you if you need to. They'll help the kids. They're good mentors to the young men and women at the school. And it's just been a great experience for me. And I've loved every minute of it.
Good pasture tomorrow night, Franklin Road Academy, to close out the home portion of your season. And then on Thursday the 30th, you guys go to Battleground Academy. Now be sure you get to the right sideline, Scott.
Oh, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I know exactly where to go.
You don't want to concede anything at this point, but at the same time, you guys are 7-0 right now. Whatever happens the rest of the way, is there a house money type approach as you guys go down the stretch, or how do you take on this next 3 weeks and beyond?
We've taken it. So I'll tell you a quick story. So back in the spring, Josh Wright and I were talking about, okay, we're trying to build this program. We're trying to help Bob. Bob's a great coach, great mentor to the guys. How can we create a unity, a unified voice, a unified kind of vision of where the program is going to go? So Josh came up with this idea of the audience of one. So we have a logo. No one knows what it is when you walk around. It's a lion's eye with an NE next to it, one, right? And that's all it says. It doesn't say anything else. So our team has this audience of one, right? One God, one play, one day at a time, one whatever it is, just one, right? When no one's watching, the audience of God, he's still watching, right? So we came up with this idea, not knowing what it would matriculate to. And what we've witnessed over the last, we're 7-8 months now, 9 months since January when I had that meeting, we've learned a lot about our team. We have 34 kids who are bought into, I'm going to do whatever I need to do for the team. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to help us win a game, and I'm going to compete my butt off in the right way. I'm going to go to class, do all those things. So we've got this vision of how it looks, right? And look, we're not judged by wins and losses. Like as a coach, we love to win. As players, we love to win. As the school loves to win. But we're judged by how we act, how we handle ourselves, how we do all the right things. And the process is what gets us to those 7 wins, right? So after every win, I just kept saying to the kids, I was joking the first couple of weeks. I'm like, hey, you can't be 2-0 if you're not 1-0. You can't be 3-0 if you're not 2-0. Well, now we can't be 8-0 if we weren't 7-0, right? So we just keep going and going. And there's not a player on our sideline that doesn't believe that we can win the next 3 games, be the number 1 seed in the middle region, and shock the world, because nobody, including me, and I told the players, I said, guys, if you would have told me we were going to be 5-5 with going into this gauntlet of a schedule we have, I would have been ecstatic, knowing where we came from, right? And I got to witness last year what it was like. But now, no, there's no whatever word you use. There's no, oh yeah, we're playing with house money because we got 7 wins most in the program. No, these kids are not satisfied. They're hungry. And if you come out to practice and you watch our 34 guys go through practice and compete every day. Our starting linebacker is a scout team middle linebacker every play when we're on offense, unless he's in an offensive rep. Our other linebacker, Jacob Gillis, he's doing scout team. So we have guys and we do 11-on-11 scouts. So we don't, a lot of small schools do half line or whatever. We don't do that. Our starters get our starting 2 cornerbacks work our starting receivers every day in scout team, unless they're on an offensive rep. So to say that we're satisfied with 7-0, Absolutely not. If we lose tomorrow night, our kids will be livid because we expect to win. We expect to compete. And I told them, I said, there's a lot of people that are really happy that we're 7-0. They're thrilled. And to your point, Mo, hey man, we're 7-0. We go 7-3. Who cares, right? When you have a program, the kind of programs that I'm involved with, and the way that I've told these kids that where we're going, we expect to be 7-0. And if we're not 7-0, then that's a problem. And we're happy to not be 7-0, then that's a problem, in my opinion. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but that's the expectation that we've set there. And that's part of the mindset. And when I talk to these kids and the Coach Wright talks and Coach Jordan, you got 34, you got 68 eyes on you. They're not looking at the grass. I mean, I'll tell you, it's a special thing, man. It's been a great experience, and the kids deserve all the credit because we call the plays, but they go out and execute them.
Coach, I was going to ask you, I think I know the answer based on what you just said, though. I was going to ask you, which more 7-0 are you more proud of, your Lions here in Tennessee or your beloved Lehigh Mountain Hawks, who are undefeated this season as well?
Let me tell you something. I had to root for Bucknell for 4 years because my son went to Bucknell, and that was not fun. Not rooting for Lehigh. But no, I tell you what, Coach Cahill has done an amazing job. Amazing. He came in and had a bad year the first year, which was expected. But in year 2, they won the Patriot League. And listen, for anybody who knows Patriot League football, Lehigh's supposed to win it. Not Holy Cross, not Colgate. Lehigh is the power. I won the first Patriot League championship there in 1993. Played in the first ever college football game on ESPN2. A little historical fact for you. It was just it's a great place. But I'm more proud of our 7-0 here because let me tell you something. We don't have 65 scholarships, and we have 34 guys that bust their butt every day.
I had a feeling that was going to be your answer, but I had to tip into the waters just to double check because they're playing well, and including big wins. They just ran through the Ivy League. Coach knocked off Penn, Yale, and Columbia all in a row recently.
Let me tell you something. People think I hear people all the time. Well, maybe my son can go to the Ivy League. I said, no, you don't understand what the Ivy League is. The Ivy League is Power 5 kids that want a good education. The Ivy League is tough football. Like, don't think that the Ivy League is a bunch of nerds running around playing football because I'll tell you right now, they are good. When you see Power 4 teams offer Ivy League kids on their fifth year for that extra year, that's the kind of talent they have. We have a kid at Dartmouth, Sean Williams, that I coached at BGA. He's a stud. Why he's at Dartmouth? I'm glad he is because the education and all that. But athletically, he's an SEC athlete. He's a freak of nature, that kid. But he started 4 years there, and he's probably going to get a shot to go play Power 4 somewhere, or he'll get a shot in the NFL. I mean, it's a crazy thing. So yes, I'm glad you noticed that Lehigh beating the Ivies is a very big deal.
Scott SEMPTIMPHELTER, offensive coordinator at Grace Christian Academy in Leapers Fork. Not easy to get to unless you're from around here, but there's a pretty good football team over there, and they've got good pasture coming in tomorrow night. Scott, we appreciate you taking some time with us, and good luck to y'all.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having us, and come on, check us out.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. Coach. Hey, before we wrap up this segment, we need to give you our weekly award winners. Let's start with our team of the week, the Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life team of the week. Besides the military, there is no greater team building experience than sports. Custom Stone Handlers invites you to get in the game, and our In to Win Life team of the week is the Summit Lady Spartans volleyball team. Made little history last week with their straight sets victory over perennial state power Brentwood in the District 10 AAA tournament championship matchup last Monday. Swept the Lady Bruins. Summit did, and for that, they are our Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life team of the week. Congrats to the Lady Spartans. Our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia Athlete of the Week, Ella Busby, senior golfer for Summertown High School, shot a 78-74-152 at the Class A golf state tournament up in Sevierville last Thursday and Friday, finishing sixth individually. Ella Busby, Summertown senior golfer, our TOA Columbia Athlete of the Week. Congratulations to her and to the Summit volleyball team, our Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life team of the week. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, as we continue Throwback Thursday. When we come back, we'll talk a little baseball. Stick around.
Columbia Power and Water Systems is dedicated to bringing our customers reliable local service. Whether you're turning on a light switch, your faucet, or streaming on TV, our dedicated team members from here in Murray County work every day to keep you on. If you need us, call us 931-388-4833 or visit cpws.com. CPWS, local service, local support.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Double in the top of the ninth, scored Ron Gant from second base and broke a scoreless tie. And Alejandro Pena struck out Andy Van Slyke with the tying run at third to preserve the Atlanta Braves 1-0 Game 6 win over host Pittsburgh in the NLCS. It was the fourth win by the visiting team in the series and forced a decisive Game 7 in Pittsburgh. Brave starter Steve Avery struck out 8 over 8 innings, allowing just 3 hits, while Gant stole second for his 6th steal of the series, setting a record ahead of Olson's game winner. That was this day in Braves history. Man, sure do miss the days when the Braves were in the playoffs. Anyway, as we mentioned during the rundown, Toronto heading into Seattle down 2-0 in the ALCS got off the mat in a big way. 5 home runs. Former Astro George Springer going yard. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with a bullet over the center field wall. Alejandro Kirk, Addison Barger, and Jimenez, whose name I've forgotten. But they got 5 home runs. Half of their 18 hits were for extra bases in that 13-4 win last night. So Toronto got a little momentum going even on the road.
Yeah, they did, and chased Kirby out of the game pretty quickly with that massive third inning. Very similar to the Brewers game the other night where we see the home team, Seattle comes up, bottom of the first, they take care of business, put a couple runs on the board. Rodriguez taking one out of the park. You're like, okay, the party is on here in the Pacific Northwest. But, yeah, Toronto showing some major, major muscle there. Big 5 runs in the third inning, and then really they just kind of were on cruise control from there. Top to bottom effort for them. The game really kind of turned into a laugher by the end, obviously. And, yeah, if you're a believer in the concept of momentum, especially after one game, this is the type of performance last night that could roll over. Now it's up to Seattle to kind of at least steal back some of the mojo. Toronto's goal was to at least win a couple here. And if you win the first one, you got a couple more cracks here. So who knows what will happen, but very, very impressive performance from the boys up north.
Andres Jimenez with that other home run for the Blue Jays in that 13-4 victory last night. We were mentioning in the 1991 NLCS, 5 times the visitors won. And so far in this ALCS, Seattle swept at Toronto. Toronto returns the favor in Seattle last night. Be interesting to see how this one goes. But last night, again, Guerrero 4 for 4 with a home run, 2 doubles. Shane Bieber, 8 strikeouts in 6 innings. You mentioned it became a laugher by the time Randy Arozarena and Cal Raleigh went yard back to back in the bottom of the eighth, I think it was. It was pretty much all done. Yeah, you've got
only thing I wish was we were robbed, man, because I mean, Black Grill, you're up 12-2. The game is over. And when he clubs one, in the gap there in the eighth inning, I'm like, come on, big fella, let's see what you got. Let's get the cycle. And yeah, he's pulled up at second. You're up 12-2. I get, it's a high stakes situation. You don't want to leave anything, but I feel like we were robbed a little bit of seeing the big fella maybe go for the cycle there.
The big fella being the key there, though, I do believe. But yeah, it would have been nice if he could have pulled that off. A playoff cycle, I don't know how many there have been, but that would have been nice. Luis Castillo getting the ball for Seattle tonight in this 7:33 start. Max Scherzer, not a great regular season for the soon-to-be Hall of Famer. 5-5 with a 5.19. Has not pitched since September 24th. Was not on the Blue Jays roster for the ALDS, but he's getting the rock here as they try to even this series up. Be intriguing to see what he's got for Seattle tonight. That'll be the second game of the day because Milwaukee and the Dodgers get started at 5:08, which is 3:08 on the West Coast for what that's worth. Dodgers with a 2-0 lead in that one going home. It's Jose Quintana going for the Brewers. Tyler Glasnow getting the ball for the Dodgers. And he's got a little bit of a standard to live up to, Wade, because as we talked yesterday, Blake Snell and Yamamoto covering 17 of 18 innings for the Dodgers in their starters roles in games 1 and 2.
Yeah, and you'd like to see that continue. If you don't have to go to the bullpen, that's great. But also, this will be an interesting kind of game as this unfolds from that pitching standpoint because you'd like to at least maybe get a little bit of work from your pen, even if you're and taking care of business. So I'll be curious to see what kind of performance we get from Glasnow tonight. But yes, that action or the impetus is really obviously on Milwaukee here. It feels like they have to come up with something because they have had no answers for that dominant starting pitching thus far through the first 2 games.
It feels obviously, mathematically speaking, it's not a must win, and I'm sure somebody has come back from down 3-0, but you'd certainly
the Red Sox know a little bit about that.
Yeah, you would certainly like to have a little bit of room between your back and the wall, and right now, that's what Milwaukee has. Very little, but some. But it really feels like this game here is the key. Otherwise, it becomes a case of not if, but when for the Brewers. So, big game tonight here. Again, starts at 5:08 local time. And you can see it on, where do we say, FS1?
No, they're on TBS and AL's on FS.
There we go. Okay. Also, up in the ante for the Brewers, Shohei Ohtani is supposed to start game 4 for the Dodgers. So you might want to get your work done tonight, if possible. Non-playoff news. Saw some updated odds regarding the next Braves manager taking the place of Brian Snitker. Right now, John Gibbons, former New York, or most recently, former New York Mets bench coach, is favored. He and Anthopoulos have a history from when both of them were Blue Jays organization. Also, David Ross, as we've mentioned before, getting some traction. The former Chicago Cubs manager, former Cubs manager, former Braves catcher, and former Auburn standout. So got some ties in the area. Braves coach Walt Weiss and Team USA in the WBC manager Mark DeRosa are your top 4 guys in the latest odds that are out there handicapping this situation. Weiss has managed before, Ross has managed before, Gibbons has managed before, DeRosa has not. I think my preference would be Ross. I could deal with Gibbons. I would really like to see them go outside of the organization, which kind of rules Weiss out for me. It feels like he's Snitka light. And I don't understand what the fascination is really with DeRosa, but it's going to be interesting because, Snitker's been there for a long time. Just seeing a different person in that role is going to kind of be a little jarring come spring training, the 2026 season.
Yeah, and it's going to be some big shoes to fill, and some obvious expectations kind of lay there. So not just your average, plug and play type situation. We're talking about replacing a lengthy tenure in Snitka there, but also obviously trying to. It's kind of a weird spot because you're in some sense trying to turn it around, but you're not really turning it around from the gutter totally. So finding the right guy, finding the right fit, and things should hopefully for Atlanta at least plug kind of right back into play.
I'd like to think. In Boston, it looks like in search of an infielder of the 3-year, $120 million deal that he signed with the Reds for the past off season. Stepping away from a 2 betting on yourself, I guess. But Bergman hit 273, hit 31. How much better is it gonna get? Oh. Anyway, there he is. Wade, you back?
Yeah, we're going through some connectivity down here, but you're right. Bregman, it's fascinating, and these are the moves that obviously get the headlines. But I'm kind of curious to see because the Red Sox, man, they kind of obviously when they made the Devers trade at the middle of the season, you're thinking, okay, in some regards they're kind of punting. They kind of almost feel like a franchise slightly that kind of is, we don't necessarily know where we're going, and they don't want to do a full reset. So moves like this are, maybe not surprising, but also we see this, hey, you're going to opt out, but guess what? You'll be coming back. We're just going to redo your deal. So time will kind of tell the future for Bregman also, but of course the franchise.
Yeah. Hour number 1 of Throwback Thursdays in the books here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back from this break, we'll be throwing it back to a recent conversation we had with Drew Hill of the Daily Memphian, as Memphis Grizzlies and NBA season is right around the corner. Drew's going to get us caught up from the Bluff City. Stick around after this. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Is your internet slowing you down? It's time for an upgrade. Whether you're at home, working from your home office, or at your business, it's time to unleash the speed you need with speeds up to 1 gig at CPWS for as low as $70 a month. Give us a call, 931-375-7777. Local service, local support, CPWS.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Joining us now down from Memphis on the southwest part of the state, friend of the show, Drew Hill, kind enough to join us to talk a little Memphis Grizzlies basketball on this Wednesday afternoon. Drew, how we doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing well. Good. Ready for another NBA season to approach us. Before we get into this version and this iteration of the Memphis Grizzlies, let's put a bow on last year. Obviously, 48-34 season for that group. Taylor Jenkins gets fired at the end of the season. Tuomas Isolo takes over. They, work their way through the play-in and get the luxury of facing the Oklahoma City Thunder in the first round of the Western Conference playoffs. It was a 4-0 sweep for the Thunder, who went on their way to win the NBA championship. All that being said, though, Drew, how do you kind of summarize last year's season for a Memphis Grizzlies squad that obviously, missed Ja Morant for parts of its season, fired its coach at the end of the year, but still made the playoffs and had a winning record?
I think it was a mostly disappointing season just based off previous expectations for this team and this roster. Last year was a little bit of a mystery, a little bit more of a mystery than it had been in the past because you had the season before that was lost almost entirely due to injuries where Ja and Jaren both missed massive amounts of time, and so it had turned into a gap year. And in that gap year, it had felt like a lot of the teams in the West had passed the Grizzlies up. Memphis was determined to show they still belonged in that top class. It's not exactly what happened. So I think it mostly ended in disappointment last season, if we're being honest. And I think that there's now a new pathway forward. You mentioned a new coach, a new direction. I think they're really leaning into the strengths of Ja Morant now, which last year's team wasn't necessarily set up that way. So there's just been a lot of changes, and I think that there's reason, again, for optimism, but people don't view Memphis as maybe one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the West anymore, and that's probably a result of what happened last season.
Yeah, and you mentioned, obviously, the new coach, Tuomas Isolo, got the interim tag going into the playoffs last year against Oklahoma City. That got removed this offseason. Why do you feel like the organization felt like he was the right guy moving forward for this unit and this current core that's now being built?
Yeah, so if you know about Tomas's background, he came from Europe. He was a highly successful coach in Europe for a long time. It is not often that NBA teams go out and hire coaches directly from Europe. Usually they come over, serve as an assistant. The Grizzlies had made him a massive priority, and it was reported that they went to the lengths of paying a big buyout in order to get him out of his contract to come over here and coach in the States. So Memphis clearly thought very highly of him when they hired him as the lead assistant under Taylor Jenkins. But the system that was being run was more closely matched the ideas and basketball philosophy of their lead player development guy named Noah LaRoche. And I think at times that was very frustrating for Ja Morant, who was used to playing in a pick and roll. And instead, they're now using the system where they don't set any screens. And they kind of do this wheel motion on offense that was very unconventional and non-traditional for the NBA. And so I think they went with Isolo because he had a basketball philosophy that was very direct. It was very no-nonsense, and it was innovative in certain ways, but definitely closer to what traditional basketball and traditional NBA ideology sort of matches. And so I think that they think the combination of having someone that is so straightforward, so direct, and somebody that also, has an offense that the star players on the team are very excited to run, is something that they viewed as a big positive. So they didn't even interview other candidates. They just went ahead and hired Tomas Isola.
Drew, Jaren Jackson Jr. and Zach Edey are both kind of nursing injuries right now, going to miss a little bit of time. Just what does front court depth look like for the Grizzlies? Obviously, with Jaren Jackson Jr., your star in that side of the court out, and obviously a guy that was one of the better rookies in the league last year in Zach Edey.
Yeah, the front court depth is very thin. In addition to Edey and Jaren, they're also going to be missing Brandon Clark for probably a significant amount of time. Jaren Jackson seems like is trending to be back, if not for the start of the regular season, very soon thereafter. So that's a very big positive for this team. Beyond that, beyond those three that we've mentioned, it is Jock Landale, who they brought in, who played last season in Houston but didn't get a ton of opportunity. I think analytically in some of the advanced impact numbers, and we know that this front office really values some of the analytics, Jock Landale graded out pretty well as a big, so they're pretty confident in what he'll be able to do as a spot, sort of a spot guy that can fill minutes for some of those other players. And then they added PJ Hall on a two-way contract in addition to Omax Prosper. So it's going to be a lot of deep bench depth pieces trying to hold the fort down for about a month until that they can get the rest of their backcourt together. And in their first preseason game on Monday against Detroit, they already really struggled to keep the Pistons off the offensive glass. So that figures to be not only something that people have identified as, wait, maybe this will be a little bit of an issue, the rebounding. It's already proving to be an issue for the Memphis Grizzlies. So that's going to be something that they're going to have a lot of attention and focus on as the season gets started here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and Drew, you kind of mentioned with Jaren Jackson Jr. Obviously, he's a big piece to this, organization. Signed a 5-year, $240 million extension this offseason. He's become really one of the best big men in the NBA. He's recorded over 1,500 points and 100 blocks last season. Averaged 22.2 points a game, 5.6 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.5 blocks, 1.2 steals. I mean, he stuffs the stat sheet night after night. So he's a big piece of this core. Obviously, with John Morant. So having him healthy on the court is going to be a big deal to obviously the Grizzlies and how far they can take this thing.
Yeah, Jaren last season, I don't think a lot of NBA fans realize this, but for, into the new year, he was in the top 5 in points per game per 36 minutes, points per 36 minutes, in the entire NBA. So, and he has a repertoire and a shot diet that, when you look at it, may not exactly match the modern idea of what the game is sort of going to, more threes and layups. He takes a lot of floaters, a lot of unorthodox shots in the lane, but they're efficient shots when you make them, and he made a lot of them last year. So, yeah, he figures to be very important for this team, as we all know, because he is one of the 2 cornerstones here. But what will be most interesting about Jaren's season is that in the past, he's really become this very good player playing off the dribble, who can create offense for himself. I think the season that the Grizzlies lost John Morant almost for its entirety 2 years ago was really healthy for Jaren because it taught him how to create for himself rather than rely on, the point guards to sort of do the work and find him a shot. And so, Jaren's really grown up that way. Now he's going to be setting a lot of screens. It's going to be a very heavy pick and roll offense. And he hasn't done a ton of that the last 2 seasons. So it'll be really interesting to see if Jaren can develop a 2-man game with John Morant and that they can sort of play together in a screen and roll setting, because as good as both players are, we know that they're both all-star level players, they haven't really played a ton together in that sort of manner. It's been a lot of my turn, your turn versus the 2 of them sort of attacking offensively at the same time.
Drew, under Taylor Jenkins, defense was rarely the problem with the Grizzlies, but, the Grizzlies, kind of struggled on defense toward the end of last season. They traded for some guys, in the later part of the season. But just going into this year, obviously under a new head coach, what do you think that defense is going to look like this year?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of ball pressure. It's going to be extremely aggressive. And the reason being is that, Isolo is a big believer in pace. He wants to take more shots than the opponent, and he also wants to shoot a higher true shooting percentage, and that's basically the baseline of all of his basketball philosophy. It's the easiest way to score is when the defense isn't back there underneath the rim. So they're going to play a lot of ball pressure. They're going to be extremely aggressive defensively. I think you're going to see the steal numbers come up and that sort of thing, in part because of personnel and in part because of this new style, which is definitely going to be heavy on trying to force turnovers and get into transition, even if it means giving up some more shots. I think the goal is to get the game as fast as they possibly can get it. They were one of the fastest paced teams last year in the NBA. They want to be even faster this year. Part of that is trying to get the opponent to shoot quickly too, not just shooting it, in under 7 seconds yourself. But they have better players to be better on defense this year. They traded away Desmond Bane. I figure we might get to that, but some of the players that they brought in, either as a result of that trade or the window of opportunity opened because Bane was gone. They're better defensive depth pieces than what Desmond Bane was. Now, I'm not saying they're better players than Desmond Bane, who's obviously really, really good, but they're more defensive-centric, on-ball perimeter guys versus somebody that can go get you 25 in the box score at the end of the night.
Drew Hill of the Daily Memphian joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. And Drew, you mentioned Desmond Bane getting traded to Orlando this offseason. That was in June for Kentavious Caldwell Pope, Cole Anthony, 4 unprotected first-round picks, and 1 first-round pick swap. Obviously, Desmond Bane is a really high-level player for Memphis throughout his career. Averaged 19.2 points a game and 6.1 rebounds and 5.3 assists in 69 games last year. It averaged over 17 points a game in his career while in Memphis. Kind of walk us through the philosophy on, I guess, the Memphis side of this trade, why it makes sense. Obviously, you can understand the Orlando perspective. They were a playoff team last year, what's now a wide-open Eastern Conference, and looking for some shooting. But from the Memphis perspective, why did this trade make sense?
This trade was a decision. It really told you a few different things. The first is that Memphis didn't view itself as good enough to compete at a championship level with those 3 players, Ja, Jaren, and Desmond Bane, leading the way. And if you look at what the rest of the NBA has done, it's really been focused on making sure, look at Boston and Oklahoma City, for example. They have so many perimeter defenders and long wings with size and athleticism that helps them be elite defenses in the league. And Desmond Bane was a tremendous player, but that's not what he was. And so I think that this was a bet that out there is a higher end outcome than Desmond Bane. Whether that be 3, as a result of trading away Desmond Bane, you found 1 superstar in the draft, or you found 1 key rotation player in the draft, and you can replace the quantity of Desmond Bane, the quality of Desmond Bane, with the quantity of several other players that make up a better team overall. And so I think that was really what the Grizzlies have preached from the beginning since they decided to pull the trigger on this deal is, it's not just about 1 player on his way out. This is about finding a way that we can reach a higher ceiling than we had with Ja, Jaren, and Dez. And they felt like that they had basically seen how far that team would be capable of going. So they made the decision to retool and to restructure, and we'll see what happens. I mean, the thing that no one talks about, which is really surprising to me, guys, is that the prize possession from that trade, the Grizzlies don't have yet. It's not just about the picks. And yes, they used their own pick and Orlando's pick to trade up and take Cedric Coward this year. They have Phoenix's first-round pick unprotected this year as a result of this trade. Who knows how good or bad the Suns are going to be this year? I think a lot of people think that they'll be very bad. That seems like it's the true prize possession from this Bain trade. And so there will be a lot of people in Memphis cheering for the Grizzlies this year. There's also going to be a lot of people in Memphis cheering very hard against the Phoenix Suns this year, especially with what they say is a pretty loaded draft class at the top for this coming season.
Drew, especially with injuries right now, how much do guys like Gigi Jackson and Vince Williams and Jalen Wells and all those guys, how much do those guys have to step up, especially in this early part of the season?
Yeah, it'll be interesting, Vince Williams and Gigi, to see how much run they're going to get. I think that there's some sorting that the team's going to have to do out on the wing. I think if you were predicting a starting backcourt right now on opening night, you'd assume Ja will likely be back. It'll be Ja, Jalen Wells, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. And then behind them, really, there's a big mix of players. There's Scottie Pippen Jr., there's Ty Jerome. Like, right there, you've already named 5 different players that can play in the backcourt. So I'm very fascinated to see what opportunity Gigi Jackson's going to get, what opportunity Vince Williams Jr. is going to get. But I think, we all know that, especially with Zach Edey out, it's like all those guards, it's going to be very critical and important that they step up and rebound. And you did mention Vince. Vince has been one of the best rebounding guards in the NBA over the course of his very young career still. So I would not be surprised at all if the Grizzlies find a way to sneak him a few minutes, just because somebody's going to have to get out there and grab some of these boards, because it's going to be difficult early on.
Through last weekend, John Morant popped up on the injury report with a sprained ankle. What are you hearing about his status here moving forward as we inch closer towards the regular season starting on October 22nd?
Yeah, I think everybody's tired of hearing the team spokesperson send text messages that so-and-so is injured, because we've already had several of those in the preseason. With Ja, it doesn't seem to be anything that's too serious. He was up moving around at the game on Monday night. He's not on crutches. He's not in a boot. He has a history of healing pretty fast from these things. So can we say for certain he'll be ready on opening night? No, we can't. But I think that if you watched him and sort of his demeanor and the way he moved around and all of that, and you're familiar with the history of Ja, it would be very unsurprising, if he is indeed out there on opening night when the Grizzlies get this thing started. So it doesn't seem to be anything that's overly serious. Obviously Ja is a sensitive topic because he's missed a lot of games for a number of different injuries over the last 3 seasons. So fans are a little stressed that, we already have Ja on the injury report, but this one doesn't seem to be anything that's overly alarming. So that's the good news.
Drew, when Zach Edey was at Purdue, and he was just dominating college basketball, won back-to-back National Player of the Year awards, there were a bunch of people saying that he's only good because he's tall and he'll never be a successful NBA player. Now, fast forward through his first NBA season, he made the All-Rookie team, averaged 9 points and 8 rebounds. Just how can Zach Edey? Obviously, he kind of proved himself that he could be a resourceful NBA player, but how do you think that he can kind of take that next step to kind of be that go-to big behind Jaren Jackson?
We actually talked about this when we were driving, me and my colleague Chris Harrington, as we were driving to Nashville last week for training camp. And you talk about all the rookies and young players on this Grizzlies roster, but also across the NBA, and you say, I wonder what they can become if they can do the X, Y, and Z. And you don't really have to do much of that for Zach Edey, because the physical tools are just so strong. He's so big, physical. He's such a good rebounder. Like, that stuff isn't going to go away. I mean, really the only question I think going into the season is the ankle, right? If he is physically, coming off of ankle surgery, if he's physically the same as he was a season ago, I have no question he's going to post better rebounding numbers than he did last season because of the system, right? Because last year he was being asked to stand on the perimeter. This year that's not going to be the case. So, what can he do to go to the next level? I'm not even sure, because I think the things that they're going to ask him to do is the stuff he already does well. I would be really surprised. Again, I think it all depends on the ankle. If he comes back and he's physically in a good spot, I'd be really surprised if the numbers aren't significantly better for Zach Edey this season, just because I think his usage, his comfortability, all of it is ready for the next step. And so from a production standpoint in the box score, I expect that it's going to look better.
We're going to wrap you up right here and put you on the hot seat a little bit and let you dive into your crystal ball. When we're talking at the end of this upcoming season, rather, where do you see this Memphis team in the last couple of weeks of the regular season? Are they a team that's fighting to get in that postseason tournament, or do you kind of see themselves on the outside looking in?
I think Memphis is a playoff team. I think they're on the fringe of the playoff and the play-in. I think that they're going to be in the 6, 7, 8 range. The top of the West is just too strong. It's so good. We'll see what the Rockets end up being. I think they have a big need at point guard, and then their backcourt depth isn't that great. So maybe there's a couple teams that take a step back. But you'd expect Denver's going to be in there. Minnesota's going to be in there. OKC's obviously the huge favorite. So I can't put Memphis quite into that tier, but I think they're in the tier right below. So I think at the end of the year they're fighting to get into that 6th spot and avoid the play-in tournament. And that's sort of a pretty realistic expectation for this team.
That's Drew Hill of the Daily Memphian. You can follow him on X at DrewHill_DM. Drew, we appreciate you taking some time on your Wednesday to join us. Look forward to catching up with you here in the next couple months.
Yep. Thanks, fellas. See ya.
All right.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Throwback Thursday on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Joining us now to talk a little Vanderbilt Commodores football from the Vanderbilt Radio Network, it's Kevin Ingram. Kevin, thanks for taking some time with us. Good afternoon.
Absolutely. You're looking for like a throwback guest or somebody that's old and been around a long time. And so, I feel like I fit right in on a Throwback Thursday.
Listen to you, man.
Yeah, come on, Kevin. You ain't getting us with that.
Yeah. Stop it. Hey, tell us, Kevin, it's been relatively quiet, I guess, since the 30-14 loss to Alabama with the off week and everything. Has this off week been a good thing, a bad thing, or will we not know till Saturday?
Mo, I think it's actually been a good thing for this team. Needed a little bit of time to recharge after playing 6 games in 6 weeks to start off the season. They had not had a break from games, and you're coming out of a big game in Alabama a couple weeks ago. Second half maybe didn't go Vanderbilt's way, but I think this team will come out refreshed and ready to go. And Clark Lee talked about it. We asked him some about it on our Monday show, and he said, "Yeah, I think the time off was good for everybody." It turned out that it was the same week as the fall break week for class, and so players were able to get away, go home for at least a couple days. Not an extended period, but some that were able to go home were able to get away and just kind of recharge physically, recharge mentally, and get ready for another big stretch of games that starts on Saturday against LSU.
Top 25 matchup. Number 10 LSU coming in. Number 17 Vanderbilt returning home to First Bank. Kind of an under the radar game, feels like, relative to the Alabama matchup, and I'm not real sure why that is necessarily.
Yeah, it really kind of is an under the radar matchup, and I guess part of it is there's lots of big SEC games coming up this weekend. Like every SEC team is playing, it's all a full slate of conference games, so that'll be cool. But yeah, there's a lot of hype over that game in Alabama. I could feel it that morning of that game, man. We went over to the stadium. We were there pretty early, and game day was there and all those things. And then people, gates open and people start coming in. It's like, man, this is a different buzz than I felt before, a game that we've been involved with in a while. I mean, we've played big games. Man, that one had a different feel to it. It sure did. But yeah, I think this is a good matchup. I mean, it's top 20 teams. LSU number 10, Vanderbilt number 17. Both these teams are 5-1 and played really well and had good first halves of the season. So I think it's going to be a really tough matchup for Vanderbilt. I think the hard part will be trying to solve LSU's defense, which has been outstanding so far. Vanderbilt's been able to put points on the board throughout most of the games in the first half of the season. Had some struggles against Alabama, but you're not going to be able to turn the ball over in the red zone for one thing. You're going to have to sustain drives. That's something Vanderbilt was not able to do against Alabama, and I think it's going to be really challenging against LSU Saturday.
You mentioned turnovers, and obviously wasn't Diego Pavia's finest hour as far as that went. But, would you attribute that more to miscues on his part or the fact that that's a pretty damn good Alabama defense?
Yeah, Alabama's defense is good, and I think he maybe a throw or two he like to have back. Certainly you get down there close and you come away with nothing, you turn it over. That's not been something that Vanderbilt's done a lot these last couple seasons with Diego at quarterback. And typically come away with something, being able to cash in, especially this season, more often than not, coming away with touchdowns and at the very minimum getting a field goal on the board. Brock Taylor's been outstanding kicking. But yeah, I think there were a couple plays you like to have back, but I think there's also probably a learning experience from that Alabama game. You can take away some good things, you can take away some things that didn't go well and areas you can improve, and then try to apply those to this week against LSU.
Kevin, you kind of walked into it a little bit with the timing of the game. You get the bye week and a chance to really kind of reset the deck. A couple things on that. First and foremost, I just want to know what injuries, if any, was Vanderbilt able to kind of clean up and kind of hopefully rejuvenate some guys during the break?
Yeah, Clark talked about that a little bit earlier this week also during his press conference, and he said really we're about as healthy as you can be, knock on wood, at this point in the season. Issa Wataha, to me, has been one of the big ones on the defensive line. I'm not sure his status or how close he is to coming back, but he's been out for a while, and that's been a big piece missing from the defensive line unit that I think's played really well and has been one of the positive stories on this team is building depth at that position, because that's what it takes to win in the SEC. You have to have a good rotation of defensive linemen. That it takes a lot of things, but that's one of the key things to me in watching this league for a lot of years. That's been a big one, but overall, I think really – the usual bumps and bruises that you have having played 6 games, but you hope this can continue. But I think this team is really fairly healthy going into the 7th game of 2025.
Well, I like that. Sounds like more maintenance than anything, which makes me excited if I'm a Vanderbilt fan. And then also, meanwhile, LSU, they did have to go out and play a game last week. I always love keeping my eyes on a team that's coming off a bye versus a team that had to go through a grinder. Kind of also with that, Kevin, the major narrative or storyline is, well, Vanderbilt lost the game and, kind of it's going to go downhill from here. And just being around the team and being around many Vanderbilt teams, what have you noticed over the last, 10 days or so that makes you think, okay, these guys, they're just as locked in as they were prior to that loss to Alabama?
Yeah, I think it's just like the whole approach of this team and this program. I think these guys, and rightfully so, look at every game and say, we can win that game. I think they looked at it that way going into Alabama. I think they feel the same way going to LSU this week. This is a team that, as much as anything, they've just built depth across the board at different position groups. And I just think this, even to go back a few weeks, watching them in camp, watching them in, practice before the season even started, I looked around and said, got a lot more guys out here look like they could play SEC football, and this is an SEC caliber roster. So I don't know that these guys have really wavered any, like whatever the result at Alabama was. I don't know that really changed the approach to this game at LSU or the approach to the rest of the season. The good part for this team is even though they lost a game at Alabama, everything's still in play for what the bigger goals are for this season. Whether you're talking about winning against LSU, or you talk about the bigger picture of trying to win enough games to put yourself in position for some postseason play. I think it's all still out there for this team. So I think the approach basically stays the same.
Kevin Ingram talking Vanderbilt football here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Obviously, another big game, and this is kind of what the SEC is all about. Looking at the Saturday schedule, you've got 3 top 25 matchups in addition to Vanderbilt and LSU. You've got number 5 Ole Miss going to number 9 Georgia, and you've got number 11 Tennessee going to number 6 Alabama. So at this point in this iteration of this conference, this is, besides turnovers, what do you expect to see differently out of this Vanderbilt? Kevin, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. You're kind of cutting out on me a little bit here. Might just kind of ask me the question again, if you don't mind, Mo.
No, not at all. This league, this schedule is a meat grinder. How does Vanderbilt what does Vanderbilt have to shake off? What do they have to maybe do differently this time against obviously a really good LSU team?
Yeah, Mo,
besides turnovers.
Right, yeah, turnovers really big. But I think go back to something we talked about earlier, sustaining drives. Vanderbilt wasn't able to do that against Alabama. You got to be able to control time of possession to win these football games, especially playing with just the style that Vanderbilt plays. They want to get a lead and run the football and grind it out and get to the finish line. I think LSU's defense is going to provide a big challenge coming up on Saturday. You're talking about a defense that's allowing fewer than 11 points per game. Ole Miss, I should say, a couple weeks ago scored 24. Everybody else has scored 10 points or fewer against LSU this season. So that's going to be a big part of it. You look at their defense, especially in second halves of games. They've given up 10 total points in the second half this season. Vanderbilt's been really good in the second half as well. LSU's outscored the opposition 77-27 in the final 2 periods. Vanderbilt's done a good job on that side too. So I think that'll be a key part of the matchup. I always talk about the middle 8. I thought that was really key in the game against Alabama. The team swapped scores, but then Alabama was able to, score again right before halftime. That was really big. And then Vanderbilt had the ball and came out in the second half and wasn't able to get any momentum coming out of the halftime locker room. I think that part of the game is going to be really big. But yeah, I think more than anything, can Diego Pavia in this offense, and Tim Beck is great at making adjustments and play calling. Can you adjust on the fly like you usually do and do some things that put you in position to have success against an LSU defense that's about as good as anybody in the country?
Kevin, with that being said, path to victory I'm always curious about, and it seems like we're in for a low-scoring game, just based on the fact that LSU's defense is so impressive. But I'm curious, what would obviously, other than a fast start and maybe some first half points to kind of set the tone, what does maybe Vanderbilt's kind of real path to victory kind of look like in your mind?
Yeah, wait, I think those are keys right there, and trying to solve LSU's defense and also Vanderbilt's defense having success against Garrett Nussmeier and this LSU offense, which they're really good. I mean, they're a very talented offense. Got Barion Brown, and we know about him. He's played, obviously here in Nashville and played at Kentucky previously. We've seen him for a few years, and he leads them in catches. Aaron Anderson's a good pass catcher. They have a 6'7" dude that plays tight end that's going to be a real challenge for Vanderbilt to deal with. So I think he has some tough matchups over on that side of the football too. Yeah, Vanderbilt's defense is going to have to get off the field. I mean, get stops on third down and get back to the sideline, give the offense more chances. Can you flip the field with a big kickoff return or a big punt return? Can Martell Heighton maybe take one to the house or whoever you put back there, whether it's Martell or Junior Sherrill or somebody like that? Can you make a big play that's outside of your normal offense or your normal defense that really changes the game? I mean, I think those things can really be a key in this matchup on Saturday. But yeah, I think you hit it on the head, man. Can you come out, get off to a fast start, and get a lead, and then get into the grind a little bit? And sometimes that's hard to do in an 11 o'clock game, these early starts. I mean, sometimes I always feel like the early games sometimes favor the road team. I hope that's not the case on Saturday, and that's not a foolproof thing by any means, but it seems like it's something I've noticed over the years that, like, when we've gone on the road and played early games, and sometimes it was to our advantage that the crowd might not be as stoked up, or everybody might not be quite as ready as you want to be to start that early. So maybe those things are keys, maybe they're not. I was with you guys thinking, this is probably going to be a low-scoring game, and who knows, it'll end up being 38-31. I mean, that's how these things go. But I would be inclined to think that it's a lower-scoring game on Saturday.
Kevin, you mentioned the crowd too, and I mean, with all due respect to Charleston State, Georgia State, and Utah State, this is the biggest home game thus far of the season. What can we expect? I'm looking on SeatGeek. I mean, cheapest tickets around $150. If nothing else, the buzz seems like it's going to be there Saturday.
Yeah, it will be, and Clark talked about that some earlier in the week that. Whatever the crowd looks like, we can't really worry about that. We have to just be ready to be the best version of our team and get ready to play a good LSU team. But at the same time, the crowds for Vanderbilt have been terrific through the first 3 home games this season. We played 3 at home and 3 on the road so far. And I think it made everybody feel good around here to play games at home and see the whole place packed with our fans. And obviously the renovations are mostly done when you – they're all done as far as what faces the stadium on the inside. North end zone last year, south end zone this season. It's all beautiful. They did a great job of all of it and really did a great job of getting it ready to start the season. But yeah, all that stuff is fantastic. The stadium looks great. LSU is going to have some fans. We know that. They're one of the biggest fan bases in college sports, and they support their teams, and they're going to be here. But I hope we have a great turnout of our fans. I hope it does look more like those other non-conference games that we've played at home. And we have a great atmosphere of people supporting our team.
Kevin Ingram of the Vanderbilt Sports Network talking Commodore football with us here on Main Street Sports today. Kevin, you talked about maybe getting some big plays from somewhere. James L. Lassiter has his hand raised in the back. I mean, it's been uncanny the way he has hit it big in the run game on a couple of occasions for this team this season.
Yeah, it has, Mo, man. That dude can run. I mean, he is so fast. And, he's not a very big guy, so it can be hard to locate. I always think sometimes players like that are some of the hardest to stop because, you got these gigantic linemen and they're kind of hidden back there, and all of a sudden they squirt free and get to the outside and you're chasing them down. And, I mean, that dude, he can fly. We have a lot better speed on this team this season, I think. You look at James L. or Trey Richardson, you got some guys who can really run. MK Young, I would throw him in there too. And Martell Hyde, he's about as fast as anybody you're going to find. But, yeah, James L. Lassiter is a really exciting player. And I think it's fun to see him get out in space. And it feels like they dial him up a couple times a game to make something happen, and he delivers more often than not. But, yeah, a big play out of somebody like that. Maybe somebody you don't expect could be the key in this game on Saturday.
It's almost like, maybe they should give him the ball more, but maybe there's a little bit of an element of surprise there involved. I'm not sure exactly how that works with when he gets his number called, but like you said, typically when he does, he makes something happen.
He does, and you got a really good stable of running backs on this team, led by Cedric Alexander, who's really versatile. He can do so many things. He's a terrific pass catcher. He's also a really good blocker. He can deliver some pretty crushing blows to free somebody up or to keep Diego, from taking a big hit or keep a play alive. But he, more than anything, Cedric can carry the football. He's a good running back. We saw him break free for a 60-yard touchdown against Alabama, and also score on what was determined to be a pass, but is actually just a short little delivery from Pavia. But I like this running back group. But Cedric, I mean, he's it's his time to be the main guy, and I think Clark Lee, as he hinted at some earlier in the week, that there was a little bit of regret that maybe they didn't feed him a little bit more in the second half of that game against Alabama after he played so well in the first half.
You mentioned Pavia, and I'm curious, Kevin. Obviously, he's the ultimate gamer, and he's going to be up for. I mean, he gets up for anybody. It doesn't really matter. But I'm curious, mentally, where do you think he's at after? Really, if you want, you could point and say, "Hey, that was kind of a lot on him in that Alabama game." So I'm just kind of curious, what do you think his mental mindset is heading into this weekend?
Yeah, I think it's probably about the same as it usually is. I mean,
that's what I was thinking, but I just had to ask.
Yeah, Diego, we could roll out there and play this game this afternoon, and he'd be ready to play. That's just the kind of player and competitor he is, and I think that energy from Diego, just everybody feeds off it around this team and around this program. Dude take a hit or deliver a block or whatever it is, and he pops back up and he's ready to go, and everybody feeds off that. So yeah, I think he'll probably come back and be energized too, coming out of that open date and not playing a game. I think it probably helps him too. But yeah, you're right. He is the ultimate gamer. I mean, he is ready to roll. But yeah, his positive spirit and energy definitely just influenced the entire program in a good way.
Muted, Mo.
Sorry, I was on mute. My bad. Kevin Ingram of the Vanderbilt Radio Network joined us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. As we like to say, breakfast with the Commodores, 11 o'clock Saturday. Number 17, Vanderbilt taking on number 10, LSU at First Bank. Kevin, we appreciate you taking some time with us, man, and get you some rest Friday night because you got an early day.
Yeah, we'll have a early start. Our pregame will start at 9:30. So yeah, it'll be an early game. But I like the early games. You play your game, and then you can go watch some other games later on in the day. So I'm always a big fan of the early starts. So it'll be fun, and yeah, hopefully see a great crowd for Vanderbilt coming out to support the Commodores on Saturday at First Bank.
Absolutely, Kev. We appreciate it, man. Talk to you soon.
Anytime, fellas. Always enjoy it.
Thank you, sir.
Let's take a break. Let's come back for our final segment here on the Throwback Thursday edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Wade and I will jump into the grab bag. Stay tuned.
Being in Tennessee, we wanted to try to keep it as local as possible, so we have an entire section of our menu that is just dedicated to local whiskeys like Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, of course, George Dickel, Nelson Brothers, Greenbrier Whiskey, and all of our taps are all local. From 2 o'clock until midnight, we've got food every day for you guys. A good handful of appetizers, some entrees, and a couple salads and things like that. My name is Ethan Kanata. Please come down and see us at the Pick Lobby Bar here at the Omni in Nashville.
Welcome back into the final segment of Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Day, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. The Predators had an off day yesterday, and it was much needed after back-to-backs on Monday and Tuesday up in Canada. They continue their road trip tonight when they go to Montreal. The Canadians dropped their opener and have won 3 straight since. Nashville 2-1-1 coming into this one, and it was Annunen in net for that 7-4 loss to the Maple Leafs on Tuesday night. I would imagine it would be Saros tonight. Wait.
You would think probably just a little maintenance. Like you said, even with the early start Monday, a back-to-back would still be a pretty tall task. So wouldn't be surprised to see the juice between the pipes, but should be a fun matchup tonight. Nashville's gotten off to a decent little start considering expectations were rather low. And if they can kind of navigate a tricky little trip north of a little road swing north of the border here, maybe return here next Tuesday with a little extra mojo, a chance to kind of keep things rolling. They've played pretty well thus far.
Yeah, if they can pick up a win tonight, that assures them of a split of the 4-game trip. They finish up out at Winnipeg on Saturday before, like you said, they come back on Tuesday, take on Anaheim. So, relative to last year in particular, you got to enjoy this start. What hasn't been very enjoyable, and if you follow friend of the show Ann Kimmel on Twitter at @AnnK_Mama on ice, the power play is catching some heat. 1 of 17 thus far with the man advantage. So it'd be nice to see the Preds kind of up that productivity a little bit maybe tonight to start. So keep an eye on the power play for the Preds as they travel to Montreal tonight in the 3rd game of their 4-game road trip through Canada. What else we got? Let's go. Thursday night football tonight. AFC North matchup. The 4-1 Pittsburgh Steelers go to the 2-4 Cincinnati Bengals. Oh, by the way, you can see that Predators game at 6 o'clock on FanDuel Sports. You can see Thursday night NFL at 7:15 on Prime. And some folks have taken to calling this one, Wade, the Icy Hot Bowl, with Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco taking snaps. This will be the 3rd time 2 40-year-old or more NFL quarterbacks have faced off. Drew Brees and Tom Brady did it twice back in 2020. But get out the crutches? No. Intriguing matchup.
It is going to be a little bit of an AARP battle when these two guys get out here. And it's going to be fascinating because the Bengals, man, it is tough to imagine them being worse than what we've seen. It feels like virtually anyone, hate to knock on Jake Browning, but other than that comeback versus the Jags, he has not been as effective. Also, their offensive line has been horrible during that stretch. But it'd be interesting to see how much do they give Flacco. Did they really kind of turn things over? Do they ask him to open it up? If they can get some offense going, they certainly have some playmakers, some maybe the best in the league in terms of your wideout combo there. But if they can get that going, they can maybe make this game. On the other hand, this is classic Pittsburgh stub your toe territory because in Thursday night football action, the Steelers are 0-8 in franchise history versus AFC North teams. Mike Tomlin is 0-6. Pittsburgh's favored by 5.5 tonight. I'm going to stay away from this one because, man, I don't know what to expect. On paper, Pittsburgh has been the best team in the division by a long shot, but that's also a function for everybody else being pretty bad thus far. But it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if the Bengals are scrappy with a little extra juice with a new signal caller if they make this game close. It'll still be ugly, but it could be close.
And the thing about it is you feel like the Bengals have the capability to be dangerous, and I think maybe that's why that it's so to watch them when you've got the guys on the outside that Browning wasn't able to take advantage of. Obviously, there aren't a whole lot of Joe Burrows around, and so there's going to be a drop off there. But maybe the wily Joe Flacco can get the ball out to Chase and Higgins and some of those other guys and take a little bit more advantage of that than a Browning has been able to.
You would think, but Mo, one other thing, I mentioned it earlier, and I'll mention it again. The Pro Football Focus offensive line rankings that came out for this week, the Bengals, they didn't move up, they didn't move down, and that's bad news because they were number 32 in the league, the worst statistical offensive line in the league. And folks in this area know about some bad offensive line. So that is saying something for Cincinnati. It won't matter who the QB, and that's the thing too, right? You bring in Flacco, who, with time, with, the right personnel, the personnel factor seems to be punched for Cincinnati. But with time, he can still be effective. But if you can't keep the guy upright, it's shades of Tannehill at his last season with the Titans. He needs that extra little second in the pocket to really, really be productive. Flacco can do that, I still think, but not with that offensive line. I don't know that leads to any sort of dominant win by Pittsburgh tonight. But if I did want to lean a direction, it would be with the Steelers.
When you say Bengals offensive line 32nd in a 32-team league, I mean, there's got to be some Titans fans looking at you like, are you serious? And there's an offensive line worse than ours? Like, you alluded to it, but it's kind of hard to imagine, but the numbers don't lie, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Bengals are sitting there at 32. The Browns are right in the mix. We've talked about them. So Flacco, he goes from bad to worse in that sense.
Literally.
The Texans are, one of the abominations that we've talked about. But, I mean, the Titans are not actually horrible. A rather modest 26th in the league in your PFF rankings. So things could be worse if you can somehow believe that if you're a Titans fan, at least in terms of line play.
Speaking of the Titans, they return home from this 3-game road trip Sunday, 12 o'clock kickoff. You can see it on CBS if you so choose. The 4-2 Patriots come into Nissan Stadium taking on the 1-5 Titans under interim coach Mike McCoy. Speaking of Mike's, Vrabel was available to the local media yesterday, and earlier this week, we heard that the Titans don't have any kind of a video tribute or anything like that planned for Vrabel. And from his comments yesterday, it sounds like it's just as well. There's an article on the Nashville Post website, nashvillepost.com. Someone asked Vrabel if he had any Titans mementos either in his office or in his home in New England. So I don't have much in my office, just a couple of pictures. Got a cool picture of me and Carter up there. That's his son, Carter. But I don't even know where my Super Bowl rings are right now. I don't have jerseys hanging in my house. That's never really been my style. Probably don't have too much from Tennessee. I mean, Goodwill's probably got a pretty good haul over there down off 8th Avenue in Melrose. Clearly, both parties in that separation have moved along. And I mean, I don't know. On Vrabel's behalf, I don't know what the expectation is. He got fired. Is he supposed to still be warm and fuzzy about his time here? I don't know.
Yeah, very rarely. I mean, do you see? I mean, you might get an occasional glowing comment, but we're talking about Vrabel, who learned from the Jedi Master himself, right? I mean, the media interactions are not exactly the most glowing at any given time. So we're, not surprised by any of this. I do love a comment that he made also when he did say that, and infer from this what you will, but he said one of the most proud memories he had during his time with the Titans was his very last game when the team had nothing to play for, and the guys still went out there and grinded their way and kind of really rallied down the stretch. And so, he's a pro's pro. He's been around the biz. The other fascinating thing is, as much as the media, and we're guilty of this as anybody, we're making the storyline, and that it obviously is. But there's only like 8 or 11 players that are even still on the roster, which is a crazy make of that what you will about the Titans, right? There's only like 8 players remaining from when he was the coach here 2 seasons ago. So it's a brand new looking team. Even Jeffrey Simmons kind of, alluded to that, saying, hey, he's a pro. We know he's got his thing, but really he's probably focused on his team. Vrabel kind of said as much. And that's kind of the extent of the storyline there. But in the terms of the game, I'm going to be really fascinated to see what Mike McCoy can bring, if anything, to this franchise and kind of get them rejuvenated. Because I think even a little rejuvenation, especially on offense for the Titans. And this could be a scrappy game on Sunday. The Patriots have won those games, yes. And the Bills win was impressive, yes. but they haven't just blown people away thus far. Classic Vrabel, they're just winning and doing and making plays left and right. But they could be had if the Titans can, or at least gamey, if the Titans can show some improvement. That, to me, is the real storyline in this one. The head coaching storyline will certainly be fun. Not as much juice now that the Titans don't have Callahan on the sidelines, but it will still be entertaining and fascinating on Sunday.
Certainly. Another game that I know Wade will be paying attention to on Sunday is when the Carolina Panthers at 3-3 go to East Rutherford, taking on the winless New York Jets. Wade, is Aaron Glenn in trouble? First-year coach for the Jets.
Absolutely. Number one, just because the Jets are about as dysfunctional as they get, so nothing would shock me. Even if there had been improvement, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for, quote-unquote, not enough improvement and Glenn to be gone. So things have not gone great, to say the least. They were already at a pretty low bar, but they are trending in a real bad direction. It's going to be a tough out. And throwing the one real salt in the wound, Mo, threading this whole thing back together, is the Jets, as bad as they've been. Tough loss last week, but their highest PFF grade was Jarvis Brownlee Jr., their first game cornerback. First game with the Jets, and he's their highest-rated cornerback. That stings for the Titans fans. But, yes, the Jets are in trouble. They look rough. Nothing will shock me. Nothing has gone right thus far, and it's going to be another wasted season, unfortunately. Personally would love to see Glenn somehow survive this and ride it out, but I will not be shocked if and when they do make a move because things have been grim.
So you wouldn't be surprised if they pulled the plug on a first-year coach?
I mean, probably let him ride to the end of the season. I don't know what you would get out of firing him, mid-season at this point. It feels like that probably would be off the table. But, at the end of the season, I would not be shocked if they made a move, just because for them anything is possible, good or bad, and usually bad.
We saw the dust-up between Detroit defensive back Brian Branch and Kansas City receiver Juju Smith-Schuster at the end of that game on Sunday night. Well, Branch will be sitting out the Monday night matchup with Tampa Bay as a result of said dust-up. The one-game suspension was originally announced. Branch appealed it. The appeal was denied, and Branch is out. So this is Branch's 10th fine in 2 years.
Lots of donations to charity.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. But, yeah, Detroit will be without him in a big matchup against Tampa Bay on Monday night. If you are a college football fan looking for something to watch tonight, good luck. Tulsa at East Carolina in an American matchup is your option. 6:30 kickoff on ESPN. Tulsa 2-4, but one of those two cost Mike Gundy his job. East Carolina 3-3. So I don't know. You might have to be a little desperate for some college football to watch that one.
Desperate, maybe. This is on the heels. Had a couple decent CUSA matchups, including Liberty. Yes, Liberty, which was sitting there with a 2-4 record on Tuesday night before they rallied on the final drive of the game to come back and beat New Mexico State. Last night, Delaware thought they might sneak down to South Alabama and come away with the win, but it wasn't meant to be. And then, you go into tonight, and it doesn't quite have the juice, but you still got a little option. You're kind of unfortunately cursed because it's going to be an ugly Thursday night NFL game. I feel like unless you're an ECU fan, Michael Felder in the house, that it'll be tough to watch that one tonight as well.
Russell Westbrook has signed an NBA contract. Russ is with the Sacramento Kings, apparently.
One last bag,
Not
baby.
sure. Yeah, there you go. I think that's about the extent of that right there. One last bag for Russ West. That's going to do it for Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Times of Columbia. Be sure and join Wade and I tomorrow at 2 o'clock as we compete on UT Alabama and the Wonder Slate, our 10 weekend winners. Be sure and check back in again, 2 o'clock tomorrow. We'll see you.